Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knick family. Welcome to Lunchtime Live, the Knicks recap and reaction show. Geoff and I. I'm your host, Stephanie, a.k.a. Queen, joined by Jeff Klafter of the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports blog. Link in the description. We are here to talk about the Knicks 2024 to 86 win versus the Indiana Pacers last night. A game without Brunson. Listen, I have to be honest. This is the dog days of the season for me. I think the Knicks have 12 more games, and I'm just having a really hard time generating the energy needed to get to the end of the season. Hopefully, Jeff is doing better than I am. I can't wait until playoff time. But I try to find different things to hold my interest. So they were playing without Brunson. So I said, all right, let's see how Alvarado plays, with extended minutes. Let's see how the team plays, period, without Brunson. Listen, this was not, the Knicks are a really good defensive team, 6 on the season, 4 in defensive rating since January 1st, but this was not a defensive game at all. You could talk about the points that they held Indiana to, but Indiana still shot 52% from the field and 45% from three. I think the blowout was more about the possession game, which the Knicks dominated. 15 more field goal attempts, 11 more offensive rebounds, 7 second chance points, only 9 turnovers. To me, that was the difference in and they shot the lights out of the ball. And and that's the spread we see. It was not defense, but we're here to talk about it. It's good on a night in which their defense wasn't there, that they were able to, put up 6,000 points. Jeff, welcome back, my friend. I missed you. For those who don't know, Jeff's mom passed a few months ago, and this past week, correct me if I'm wrong, they had one of the memorial services for her, and so Jeff was absent, and I just took that time to just take a break, quite frankly. So I know you guys haven't seen us together in a while. Jeff, how are you feeling before we get into this Knicks game?
I'm doing really well, actually. It was good to see a lot of people at the funeral. Mom had a lot of friends at her church that she went to, and it was good to see them. And I saw a bunch of family members, her brothers and sisters, who I hadn't seen in ages, a decade probably or more. So it was good to catch up, and it was good to and I got through the eulogy without any stumbles. That was kind of a concern of mine. So I was really glad to be able to get through that and honor my mom in a way that her husband, Brian, would appreciate. And he was happy with what I did. And so big worry. So it passed without incident. We got one more to go, but it kind of felt real for the first time in a long time, because she lived in Tennessee and I'm in Texas, and so I don't see her every day or necessarily talk to her every day. And so it was kind of crazy that like I was there, I saw Brian, and she wasn't there. It really kind of hits you in the face. But I'm so Absolutely. Grateful to have this Knicks family and this community that's very gracious to me and has been very kind to me. And thank you for helping me in my healing process. And if your mom is still around, call her and tell her you love her and hug her. That's all I'll say about that. Let's get back to basketball, though.
All right. Shout out to the chat, replay gang. Shout out to Instagram. We appreciate you being with us this morning. Facebook as well. YouTube, you already know. X suspended my second account, so I'm no longer on X. I'm not fighting with them. I sent them an appeal of the suspension like 2 weeks ago. They didn't even bother to reply. The 2 people they have working in that office. So it is what it is. I'm not on X. any longer. But yeah, Geoff, give me your thoughts on the game. Okay. Geoff has froze a little bit. All right. So I will take it from here. Like I said in the introduction, the Knicks shot the lights out of the ball. They shot 55% from the field, 44% from three. Let me just remove Geoff until he gets back. And that was basically behind Josh Hart and OG Anunoby. Josh Hart was 12 of 13 from the field. OG Anunoby was 10 of 13 from the field. Josh Hart was 5 of 5 from three, and OG Anunoby was 4 of 5 from three. Those two guys really helped with our efficiency. Karl-Anthony Towns had a really good game, but he was just 9 of 21, and the Knicks still wind up shooting 55% from the field, 44%, for the game. Okay, here's Geoff. All right, there you go, Geoff. What
West Texas Wi-Fi? You never know what you're going to get.
I know. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it's not something you want to get too high on. I think the Indiana Pacers were down to like their 15th string, and no Siakam, nobody. So TJ McConnell still roasted and toasted us for his time in the game. I think Obi Toppin was their leading scorer, and I think he played like 8 minutes. So we didn't defend well, but it's a game. It's on St. Patrick's Day game, and a season that I think the Knicks are as much anxious to get to the postseason as you are at this point, and as we are. But these are important games. Whether we have season fatigue or not, it's really important. We're now 20 games above 500. We've got 12 games left, and so it's really a big push. We're a game behind the Celtics. I think it's going to be a difficult stretch. I think we've got Charlotte twice. We've got Boston at OKC. So we've got some big games going forward. So it was important to get a win like this. And I think one of the biggest things about this game is it allowed Brunson to have almost a 5-day rest. Assuming he's healthy to come back for Brooklyn, right? Because we didn't have a game the night before, and we don't play today, and we don't play tomorrow. So it's really good for him to get healthy and get some rest and be hopefully at peak form come crunch time down the stretch, because we're certainly, I don't think last night's final is indicative of what we want to do going forward. Brunson is much more important to this team than I think we realize sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just piggyback off of that part, because shout out to JJ. Fans already saying, see, we don't need Brunson. Fans waiting to turn on him. I don't get it. I will say this. Most of your best players in the league are ball dominant, right? If they're not playing the center position. And so it takes them a little time to set up their shot. And I think Mike Brown has done wonders with Jalen Brunson, in my opinion. It's taken less time for him to get his shot off. So when you have a ball dominant, and that could be KD, that could be whoever it is, when they're out of the game, of course the ball is going to move better, because the guys that are left, particularly on the Knicks, are usually guys that are better off the ball than generating their own offense, right? So you're not going to get a lot of dribbles from them. You're going to pass it to them. They're either going to take the shot, or they're going to pass it back, or they're going to pass it to the next person, or they might attack the closeout and take 2 dribbles in and pull up. But it's going to be like that, because those guys don't have the ball skills to just face up a defender and rock them to sleep and put it between their legs and try to get we don't have those guys on the team. So of course the offense is going to be crisper with passes. That's just what it is when you don't have guys who can handle the ball. But let's not mistake that with not needing Jalen Brunson. You know, you need, and listen, I know I'm preaching to the choir. Like 99.9% of you understand that you need one of them if you're going to have an opportunity to win a championship. And Brunson is that, in my opinion. Though I know some people may have questions this season, I still think he is. The playoffs will tell the story. But he was out. He was out, and I like the way the team responded, even though it was Indiana, because we've played Indianers in the past and struggled, right?
This specific Indiana.
Specific team. Exactly. And listen, let's start with Hart. 33.7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 12 of 13 overall, 5 of 5 from 3. Just 4 or 5 from the free throw line. Like, how dare he miss a free throw? Really efficient, played with a lot of energy. Listen, this is like a once in a lifetime, not a lifetime, maybe a once in a season type of performance. But what I would really like to see continue, it's just that there was no hesitation on that 3-point shot. And it was like he was just sitting there waiting for the ball to swing to him so he could take the shot. And quite frankly, that's what we need from Josh Hart. Like this, when he gets it, he doesn't feel confident in his shot. So now he wants to dribble into the teeth of the defense. I just feel like now things are getting clogged up. Like, just take the shot or pass it. That's this performance. We probably won't see it again, right? In a while. But his process, I would love for that to continue. Your thoughts on Josh Hart last night, Geoff?
Well, it's an elite performance, all-time NBA performance. To shoot 90% on a 30-plus point performance with over 5 assists and 5 rebounds. I think there's only like 4 other guys in the history of the league who have done that. And one of them's LeBron. Larry Bird is another one. And so you're talking about like monster territory as far as the game that he had. And so, you know, obviously you're 100% right. Hart's not going to do that on a regular basis, but we don't need him to do it on a regular basis, but we needed him to do it last night, right? Because Brunson was out. We needed someone to step up and pick up the scoring mantle, and he did that. And that's what you want to see, is that not that you expect it from him every night, but that if on the occasion that you do need it, is he gonna step up? And he did that, and kudos to him. And it's funny that you know, he's been a lot of the target of, you know, get Josh Hart out of the starting lineup and all of these stuff for a good part of the season by a lot of people, including myself. Mm-hmm. So for him to have
data supports it, to be fair.
Yeah. And so we, you know, it was good to see him have that kind of a night, and you know, it wasn't like it was against a lot of defensive pressure, but still 90%, 12 of 13 from the field, that's incredible. And Josh Hart is a critical piece to our team, and he proved it again last night. And he really is a terrific player. It's jack of all trades, master of none, whatever you want to call him. I think he's a critical piece to this team if we want to win a championship.
Which Josh Hart are you going to get? And it's not even the shooting, the energetic Josh Hart. You know, that energetic Josh Hart is really what we need. We need that junkyard dog Josh Hart, basically. Sure, if he shot better, would that help? Sure, you know, no doubt about it. But that energy, that diving on the floor, that, you know, just doing whatever it takes, whatever the team needs in any given game, that's the Josh Hart that we need. And statistically, if you look at his stats, you would say, okay, he's delivering. But to the eye test, I just feel like there are some games where he just takes it up a notch, and you're like, that's him. That's who I remember.
Well, when I think part of it is when Hart is bad, it's like want to tear your hair out bad. It's like he's missing rotations because he's overplaying in the paint, or, you know, he's out of control on the dribble on the fast break and he's throwing the ball away, or he tries a fancy pass that there's no way in God, on God's great earth that it's going to get through to where it needs to go. It's the mistakes which are less frequent than we think they are, but they just are glaring. So I think that sometimes it gets it gets overblown compared to his overall impact. I don't know, but I feel like he's shooting the 3-pointer really well this year. I think he's up at 39%. Is that right?
Yeah, he is definitely above league average. I just think there's too much hesitation instead of just pulling the trigger on it. But you're absolutely right. The percentages are above league average.
And I think what you're saying is spot on, though, because I think what happens is one of the reasons he's at 39% is because he's keeping that volume in check. When he doesn't feel it, he doesn't shoot it, right? And so I think that as frustrating as that is, right, as we always want to say is shoot the ball, and I think it's true that shooters shoot. I'm not sure that he's just a shooter, though. I think that he's the kind of guy who is, if it's in his spot and he's feeling comfortable, he can knock it down at a good clip, but he's not a guy that you want to give like Dante DiVincenzo kind of volume to out there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no doubt about it. I just put up a lead tracker. This is like a visual.
I love that graphic. Yeah,
this just visually lets you know how the game went last night. And you could see it was mostly the New York Knicks. The end of the second quarter, or somewhere toward the end of the second quarter, they made a little run. But the Knicks, responded. Yes, I like that Hart midi from around the free throw line. He likes that shot, and he's using it a bit more. I like it. I like it as well. Where do you want to go next, Geoff? And shout out to my cousin Jonathan, listening to us on Instagram. Appreciate you.
I think OG Anunoby is probably a good place to go next. That man was all over the place. I mean, he's hitting his 3-point shots. But to me, what I love about Anunoby, and not just last night, but his attacking the basket has been outstanding. Is both on cuts and with drives in the middle. He really shows his strength, and when he goes up strong and finishes, he's really, really difficult to stop. And then when you have him hitting threes like he did last night, he was incredible last night. Like Josh Hart's performance overshadowed OG's because Hart was like once in a lifetime performance, twice in a lifetime performance, but OG Anunoby was excellent last night, and I loved his process. And when he's attacking and getting downhill, we really see good things from him. And part of it was a lack of resistance from the Pacers defense, but a lot of it was on him and his process and his attack mode. And he really looked good last night in terms of scoring the ball and getting to the cup and being a force. And something that struck me on the broadcast last night, Mike Breen said that he's 17 out of 20 on the season in crunch time free throws, wow. which I thought was super impressive. I was like, wow, that's really, really good. He hit a couple big ones the other night to put Golden State away. But, I really feel like Anunoby has played a lot better since the All-Star break. And it's kind of ironic that as Bridges is kind of falling, OG is kind of rising at the same time. And I think that's kind of a boon for the Knicks. I mean, if you're going to have one of them slump, you might as well have the other one surge. And, obviously we'd prefer they both surge, but if you definitely don't want them both slumping because, a lot of the calculus, Towns and Brunson need to be our top two scorers, in my opinion, but we need consistent production from Bridges and Anunoby if we're going to be the best actualized version of ourselves. And so it's really good to see OG step up yet again. I mean, he's been doing it a lot lately, but excellent game for him last night. Yeah,
I thought so too. To your point, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal on splits of 769, 800, 1,000. He was 10 of 13 from the field overall, 4 of 5 from 3, and 2 of 2. And he was the one. I mean, Josh Hart's baskets were kind of spread throughout the game, but in that second quarter, First half, he came to life. Second, I think it was the first quarter. He did most of the scoring for us, if I'm not mistaken, and then scored the first basket of the second quarter. And his body strength is incredible. I just have to temper my expectations because I just see if he could ever, and it may be too late, now, but if he could ever become the two-way player that he has the potential to be on a consistent basis, he's on another level. Like, you see these dominating defensive performances, and then you see these dominating offensive performances, because OG Anunoby, one thing about him, he doesn't settle. He gets the shot he wants. He gets the shot he wants. If he wants to go to the basket, he's going to the basket. And if you happen to cut him off, I get a little nervous. But that little turnaround fade away, he got that he has that in his bag too. And he's always looking for the dunk, very aggressive. Like, I'm like, oh my God, if he can ever put it together consistently, the Knicks are different. He's an all-NBA player if he could do that. I know I'm asking a lot. I know. Jerrell, don't come at me. I tell you how many times about OG Anunoby. Just let me dream about what could be if he was ever that on a consistent basis. But yeah, shout out to OG Anunoby last night, and I think he's going to be huge for us in the playoffs. I really do. I really do. All right. Where do you want to go? You know what? Let me pick the next one. Since you picked OG, I'm going to go to Alvarado. Thank goodness he finally hit some shots last night. But we always felt that he was really good at managing the team. Like, he's not like a passing savant, so to speak, but in terms of getting your team into their sets and things of that sort, I like him for that. And that's really what you need behind Brunson. But without Brunson last night, 16 points, 10 assists, 2 steals, just 1 turnover. He was 5 of 10 overall, 4 of 7 from 3, and 2 of 2 from the field. And listen, from Alvarado, if you can manage the team and shoot just league average from 3 in the playoffs for us, my goodness, that would really, really help. But I thought he was more than solid last night. Your thoughts?
Well, it's funny about Alvarado, and I think what's so frustrating is he's like a 34% three-point shooter, which isn't like awful, but seems like he has a game where he's 8 of 9, and then he'll go 2 weeks without making him. Right. He made him like, hallelujah! His shot was falling for a change. But I'm kidding mostly, but I think it speaks to something that you were asking for a long time before the trade deadline, right? You're like, let's get another playmaker in here, and I think that, we had that a little bit with Campaign last year, and I think Alvarado does a lot of the same things, and so I was really pleased with his floor game last night, and really his 1 turnover was in garbage time. Like, it wasn't even really a big deal as far as I was concerned. But if you're going to talk about a 10-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, with the requisite dog defense that he always plays, I mean, he's always tough. Sometimes he's overmatched physically, but I mean, he's always going to give you 100% effort and guard 94 feet. It's kind of cool for him because, a guy who went to Christ the King, his first start at Madison Square Garden, and then to come out and have a double-double is, to me, that's really cool. I'm sure it meant a lot to him. And it's kind of fun to see that he and Josh Hart, former teammates in New Orleans, kind of go at each other a little bit and having fun with each other. I like to see that kind of camaraderie because I think it helps, steady the ship when things, are a little bit rocky. And, he hasn't had a lot of great games lately, but, when we needed him last night, he was really good. And that's why we got him, right? This is the exact situation why you wanted an Alvarado on your team. And he came out and he performed admirably, in my opinion. He was very good last night. We saw the best of him. And, if he's going to shoot 4 of 7 from 3, that's gold. I mean, you want to talk about gravy. If you're getting a good shooting performance from him, the other team's in trouble. And were they ever? I mean, they lost by 26 or something like that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, for sure. Listen, Brunson may get into foul trouble. It rarely happens, but that may happen in the playoffs. He may have to miss a game. It's good to know that you have Alvarado and Kolek backing him up as opposed to Kolek, being a starter in the playoffs if a situation like that was to arise. So it's insurance, right? You need 3 point guards, in my opinion, on a team, and the Knicks, the Knicks have that. Where do you want to go next?
I don't know if you want to take them separately or as a tandem, but I thought our centers were really good last night. Like Mitchell Robinson had a stretch where it just seemed like he was rescuing the ball, like the Knicks were just throwing the ball around. And he would find a way to get it and then kick it out to shooters. And I thought Robinson had a great game. Sometimes I wish I'm just like, you're right at the basket, dude. Just go up and finish. There was, and I know that they like to, spray and pray the whole thing. And he does an outstanding job of that. But I thought his screen setting was really good last night. I thought his offensive rebounding was outstanding. I thought he did a really good. Yeah, I thought he did a really good job catching alley-oops and finishing, which, he's gotten much better at. And we've kind of seen more from him. And he even had a ball in the pinch post that he made a nice pass last night, which I didn't even know was in his bag. I was like, is that Isaiah Hartenstein? What?
Was that to Cat for the dunk?
I think so. I think so. So, and I kind of want to lump them together because I thought Towns was terrific too. Like to me, you've opened my eyes, Queen. And I really think this is true. Towns is sacrificing his offense purposefully, I think, for the betterment of the team. And I think that one of the things I discovered last night when I was talking to my guy, David Smith, we were having some discourse back and forth on X. Mm-hmm. And the Knicks are 27-13 when Jalen Brunson is our leading scorer. And we're 9-7 when Cat is our leading scorer. So I think that's very interesting. So that means in all the other games, we're 9-5, and so with somebody else other than those two being the leading scorers. So Towns is sacrificing some of his shots and some of his offense, but his defense has been otherworldly compared to what it used to be. He's never going to be an all defensive team player, but we've got Brunson and Towns starting most of the time. And the defense is tops in the NBA, since January, as you said. So, fourth. Okay. But, they're giving the effort on that end of the floor, and that makes a huge difference. And I think that it affects their offensive games. I think it's one of the reasons why their percentages may not be as high, because they are giving out more effort on that end of the floor. And I think that's something that you live with. But, the apex of this team is with Towns and Brunson at their best. And so it's nice to see Towns, really locked in as far as what the team needs him to do. And he was terrific last night. I mean, he didn't shoot the ball really well from 3-point land. I think it was like 2 of 7. But other than that, he pretty much did everything that you wanted him to do. And he kept the fouls down, which was key without Brunson there and I didn't think he had very many turnovers either. I didn't check that stat before we came on the air. So bad job by me. But
that's fine. Yeah, Cat, he wasn't efficient. Last night, he shot 43% from the field, just overall, just 29% from three, just 67% from the free throw line. Wasn't efficient. He did get 21 shots, most on the team. That's good to see. With Brunson out, that he was able to get more shots, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, 2 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. That's 4 stocks, right there from Karl Anthony Towns. And you could tell defensively, his rotations are much better. His energy and effort is much better on the defensive end. He's challenging shots. He's staying out of foul trouble. He's turned the corner. Mitchell Robinson, only 19 minutes, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. He also had 5 offensive rebounds. So yeah, I thought both of them played well when they were in the game last night. And it's good. We talked about this when the season started. It's good to have this rotation, this lineup versatility, right? And he used it last night with those two, and it definitely
and they played together some and were effective. I thought that was interesting. They worked together.
And that pass to Cat, and I said there was a few, but one of the criticism I had of Mitchell Robinson was his lack of ball skills. Like whenever he got the ball, he's just going to pass it back to whoever passed it to him. The offense was going to stop. Like he just wasn't going to move the offense along. Maybe that was a Tom Thibodeau thing. Maybe that was the offense under Tom Thibodeau. But I think, in my opinion, his offensive skills have improved. Just even getting the offensive rebounder, knowing where the 3-point shooters is. I'm sure that's part of the scheme. But making that pass, and then that pass to Cat last night. That first of all, that's confidence. That you can make that pass. So I just think his offensive IQ, his skills when he has the ball in his hands has improved. In my opinion, I know Delusional will probably argue it's always been there, Queen. It's always been there. Tom Thibodeau was holding him back. Perhaps. I want to talk about, I'm going to put them all together. There's some mentally tough players on this team, and just some pros. Cat, Clarkson, Bridges, all went through adversity. Bridges is still going through adversity. They all stay professional. They all continue to contribute now, and even when they were going, through the adversity, to winning until the tide turned for them. And that's good to see. I mean, Cat was getting a lot of criticism from fans. There seemed to be some friction. Maybe I'm reading into it between him and Brown, but he figured it out. Like, he didn't allow that to get in the way of him trying to find a way night in and night out to contribute, even when he wasn't getting the shots. It seems like the tide has turned for him. Clarkson, as we know, has been out of the rotation. He was put in garbage time a few games ago, played well during that time. Now he's seeing consistent minutes. He had 20 minutes. I think it was 20 minutes last night. 10 points, 2 rebounds, and assists, 1 turnover. Diawara's minutes are down, so I don't know how we like that trade-off. And, listen, Bridges is in a shooting slump, but you can not shoot well. We've heard this, right? And still play well. So Bridges last night, again, did not shoot well. 4 of 12 overall, 2 of 6 from 3, did not get to the free throw line at all. So just 10 points, but 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and the highest plus minus on the team, plus 28. Right. So, and he's still taking the shots that he usually takes. They're just not falling, So just kudos to Bridges for just kind of hanging in there, not shying away from the shots he usually takes, and continuing to contribute in other areas of the game. And that shows some mental toughness right there for all 3 of those guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that let me hit them one at a time, I guess. So Clarkson really been playing well of late. I even thought defensively he's been really good at fighting over screens and not being lackadaisical, which is I kind of think one of the reasons why he got out of the lineup in the first place. I mean, he still does the things that he does on offense. Like, he's a potent player. He's one of the few Knicks who can create a shot off the dribble, and he creates space in almost wizardly ways. He's very, very much, so you don't think he's got anything, and then all of a sudden he finds a way to get the ball up at the basket. It's kind of amazing. But you said when we signed him that there are going to be times when you just need a Jordan Clarkson, and I think that that's true. I think that there might be a time in the playoffs where we just need a shot in the arm offensively, and he can come in and be an Alec Burks and just give you 14 points in a quarter all of a sudden, just because he's a change of pace, and he stayed ready. And that's one thing Mo Diawara needs to do. Cool Mo D needs to stay ready. Just this is not like a Thibodeau situation where you're banished for good, right? We thought Clarkson was, but Clarkson worked his way back in. So Mo's going to have a chance to work his way back in. But I think it's fair to say that Diawara hasn't been great the last 2 or 3, at least in my opinion, the last 2 or 3 times we saw him. He takes a ton of shots, and he sometimes is getting lost defensively, and so I think it may be just a situation. Okay, we're going to pull him out of the lineup, let him reflect a little bit, and see how these other guys are working and doing, and kind of then plug him back in later on. Although we may not be plugging him back in later on, because Deuce McBride is really, really close to a return from what I heard on the broadcast last night. So kind of have to wonder if he and Clarkson are both going to be back to situational once McBride is back to a regular complement of minutes. But kudos to them for staying ready. And I thought, I'm not a big Clarkson fan, but I thought he's been, not just last night, but since he got inserted back in the lineup, I think he's been extremely good for the Knicks, and just his defense has been better, and he's creating shots, not just for himself but for others. I thought he was really fun to watch in Utah. To beat his old team, he was really great, and I think just from that point forward, he's showing what he can do, and so it's really a gift to be able to have the luxury of a guy like a Clarkson and even a cool Mo D that, some nights they're not going to have time, but then you can put them in and you can expect that when they do get in, they're going to do big things. And I think that professionalism is the proper word for it. Right. There's not, when you have a talented team as we had, sometimes there's just not enough minutes to go around, and Kolek gets thrown in that pot too sometimes, right? He'll go from DNP to, okay, last night he's getting 15 minutes because Brunson wasn't in, and I didn't think he played great, but he didn't play poorly either. And so I think it's important that these guys stay ready, because you never know when your number is going to get called. So I was very, very glad you brought up Clarkson. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Mike Brown is doing this on purpose, but I like the fact that a guy is just not banned forever. Like, we saw that when Yabusele was here, and I know some would have liked him to do that, where he would get like 3-4, DMPs in a row, and then the next thing you know, he would get minutes for a few games. And I think psychologically, that's good for the players to know that you're never totally out of the rotation. And listen, there's 12 games to the season. You're going to need a Clarkson in the playoffs. I mean, other than Brunson, who else do we have who can consistently create a shot when the defense ramps up and everybody is covered and you have to generate a good look? Brunson and Clarkson. And listen, I'm not saying that means that he needs to be in the rotation, but it's better than having him sit on the bench for the 30 games leading into the playoffs, right? That he's getting some run right now. We're going to need everybody in the playoffs. Mike Brown is going to have to be, who leads the orchestra, Geoff?
The conductor.
Yeah, he's going to have to be a conductor, in terms of what do we need right now? Who do we need right now? And putting these lineups together in the playoffs. And I think the only person we haven't talked about is Shamet, who struggled mightily. He only played 15 minutes or something of the sort last night. 2 points, 1 rebound, and assist, 1 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from the 3-point line. It bees like that sometimes.
He drinking out of the same water fountain that Bridges is. Although, I do want to say one thing about that too. I thought it was big that he kind of got some garbage time minutes, and he hit a couple of threes, and and maybe that gets him going again. Like, he was 0 for 4, and so he hit his last 2. I don't know, but maybe that gets him going a little bit. I mean, but with Bridges, it's tough because the defensive metrics all say that he makes a positive impact on the game, even when he is in the toilet with his scoring, but
he does.
The thing about it is that's not what you want to hear from a guy you traded 8,000 draft picks for, right? Yeah. And so he's going to have that stigma, whether it's fair or not. He's going to have that stigma his entire Knick career unless we win a championship.
Geoff, you sat me down in the back room and you brought me back to earth when it comes to Mikal Bridges. Him being in a slump, so what? I mean, he's not a major scorer for us, anyway, in my opinion. Can he score baskets? Yes, he can. Do I feel he has more offensive upside? I do. However, this is who he is. A lot of his value comes away from the ball and what he does to help the team overall, even if it doesn't show up in the stat sheet. And listen, last night it did. He had 4 rebounds. He doesn't average 4 rebounds. He had 5 assists last night. He had a steal. He had a block. He was plus 28. Would I like him to shoot better? Sure. Everybody goes through a slump. We're going to be fine if Bridges is slumping because I just don't think he's a major offensive player for us. And we have others that can pick up the slack. So it is what it is. I just like that he's still contributing and impacting. Winning. Salute, sis. Latoria. And now I got to steal that from Ron. Shout out to Ron from Still Knicks fans.
Always.
All right. You want to get to, I didn't get a chance to put this on a slide, but, on the season, the Knicks are 3rd in offense, 6th in defense, 5th in net rating. Since January 1st, 10th in offense, 4th in defense, 6th in net rating. And I do want to say, I looked at the percentages, the opponent field goal percentages since January 1st. Opponent field goal percentage, the Knicks are 6th in the league. And on the season, they were always pretty good in terms of opponent field goal percentage. But opponent 3-point percentage, the Knicks are now, since January 1st, they're 8th in opponent field goal percentage. Now, it's not a clean stat, right? You have to kind of go back and see which teams they've played since January 1st. Probably some teams in it that's just not good shooting the 3 anyway, but that's a fairly decent sample size. The Knicks remain first in opponent offensive rebounds, right? So they're a good defensive rebounding team. They don't give up a lot of offensive rebounds to the opposing team. They're first. And they're 3rd in opponent points. So the defense is real. The defense is real. The offense, I know that they haven't been super great. Even the eye test tells you they haven't been super great offensively. So I tend not to get caught up in the 3rd because I know there's a lot of beginning season noise, 3 months of noise in there. But defensively, this Knicks team is legit. So hopefully that continues in the playoffs, and I believe it will. Anything else before we get to the chat?
I think that's an awesome point, though. I want to echo a little bit of what you said. The sentiment of what you said is, there's enough offensive talent here that they're not really, they're not really performing at what we think their best can be. But if you can guard the way that we're guarding and combine that with even the level of offense that we are displaying right now, that's championship contender territory, like just net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, and it's all been very good. And I think I don't know what the breakdown is, but I know in our last 27 games, I think we're even first in defensive rating. So, that's not a small sample size, right? That's not something that happens by accident. And it's not like all we've done is play the Wizards during that time either. We have victories over teams like the Nuggets and the Celtics and the Lakers and and we played the Oklahoma City Thunder. We didn't win that game, but we only gave up 103 points. So one of the best offenses in the league. So, and we've had a lot of games where we hold teams under 100 points, which is, almost unheard of in the modern NBA. Like, this isn't the 90s Knicks. But the other thing that I wanted to say is we're on pace to win 50 games for the 3rd season in a row. And we've only done that 2 other times in the history of the franchise. The first was our championship window when we won our 2 titles. The second was those early 90s teams that never really quite got over the hump, and now we're kind of in a new era. So we still have a little ways to go to get there, but if we can go 5-7 in our last 12, then we're up to 50 wins for the 3rd straight year. And as Knicks fans, that's rarefied air. So kudos to Brunson and Cat and the whole team and Mike Brown for coming in and stepping in and doing a good job.
Yeah, for sure. I will say this first, and I'm on a limb. I'm probably on this hill by myself. I'm very concerned about the Knicks offense. I don't think just having offensive talent is enough. And I'm a little concerned about it. And I don't think that their defense, even a number 1 defense, can make up for putrid. I don't know if the Knicks offense will be putrid, but for stagnant, low process offense. And so I'm happy that the defense is better. The offense, at least to the eye test, and at least in terms of efficiency, in my opinion, has not been great. And they have the talent. I just need them to put it together a little better on the offensive end. They're going to need it. You're not holding teams in the playoffs to 8 points. Like you're going to need to score the ball. And the reason why it's not about individual talent, if they figure out a way to take Brunson out of a game, we have to be able to see where the advantages are. We have to be able to move the ball. And whoever we're moving the ball to has to come through and have to deliver in those spots. And so I noticed when we play the tougher defensive teams, and it's to be expected. Your offense is not going to move as well, right? They're taking away things, right? They're a good defensive team. They're taking things away. I just feel like the Knicks' ability to recognize what they're taking away, go to what's available, execute it, just seems a little choppy to me. I hope I'm wrong. I hope my concern is overstated, and that the Knicks just fly on both sides of the ball when the playoffs start. All right. Okay. Nick Nation says, good morning to you, Queen. It can't be great with 4.5 starters on offense and sometimes 3.5 players out there on offense. Yeah. So in other words, that's the sacrifice you're making when you have more defensive players in there. But Hart can still play both sides of the ball. Like, who are we putting in that you're not getting any offense from? Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe when you have Mitchell Robinson, if you want to argue that, he still contributes on the offensive. But if you want to argue that, what other lineups are we putting in? Jeff, refresh my memory, where it's just 3.5 players on offense.
Anything with Jeremy Sohan probably in the lineup.
Okay.
But he's an end of the bench guy, so you don't worry about him. But
right, and
but I'm just racking my brain trying to think of what you're saying, and Sohan would be the only one who's and so if you had a lineup with, say, Sohan and Mitch and Hart, for example, then I think that might be a 3.5, but I don't think that's going to be something you're going to see except in garbage time. So I don't. And then probably not even then, actually.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the chat. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. Curtis D. Young, once the offense comes around, then having their defense will be a luxury. I totally agree. Jerrell, we don't play smart offense at all. Steph, I don't think our offense will. I think our offense will be the end of us when it's all said and done. I am a little concerned about the offense as well. Okay. Nick Nation says he's referring to our starting unit on some nights. Okay. I got you with that.
We do get off to our slow starts. He's not wrong there.
Yeah. Shout out to Sharon. Appreciate you, Sharon, rocking with us from the beginning. Good afternoon. I predicted a 30 victory and a breakout for Bridges of 30 points. I was off. Just a little.
26 points. We'll round up for you, my guy.
Yeah. Exactly. FSIN 6897, salute to you. Sherman also says we need to give Brunson and Cat some time off. All right. Where's your X account? I talked about that in the beginning. My second account was suspended for not following the rules. I don't know what those rules are. I've reached out to them. I haven't heard back. It is what it is. JJ rocking with us from the beginning. I like how Mike Brown left Bridges in the game. Sure. Very late to try getting him going a bit, and he hit a couple of threes. Yeah, and hopefully that continues. The Cook family adventures. Let's go Aggies. All right. Utah State University. All right. Somebody said condolences. FSIN 6897.
Thank you.
Condolences to Jeff. All right. JJ, no DOR was a bit surprising. I know he's been struggling. Okay. Yeah, he has been. He'll be back in though. That's just Brown. That's just Mike Brown. He'll cycle him back through. No love for the refs. I like that.
You like that handle.
Wish you healing, Jeff, and anyone else who's suffering. The entire world. Well, I'm not going to say the entire world, but just
the entire world.
Keep the world in your prayers and in your thoughts. And if you meditate like I do, loving kindness meditation, keep the world there. All right. Question 1, if the New York Knicks can play with that same level of intensity and discipline every night, they're definitely a problem in the league. That's something we didn't discuss. Thank you. What's that? Questent one. The Knicks did come out. I think they heard all the talk about their slow starts and they came out. They were still only up by 4, 38-34 at the end of the first, but they came out with a lot of energy. You could just see there was an uptick in the energy, and they were pretty focused and engaged in that first quarter.
Coach talk about changing the starting lineup, maybe lit a fire under him, huh? Mike Brown was really mad after the Warriors game. He was like, I'm not at the point where I'm going to change it yet, but we what did he say? He said, I've got 9-year vets in there. There's no reason I need to be calling 2 timeouts in the first 6 minutes.
Absolutely.
So he was really infuriated with, and then it wasn't just that game. He's saying that's been a pattern of late. So maybe that got him going a little bit.
Yeah. The question is, did Carlisle hug Brown after the game?
Probably not.
Right. I don't want to hear Hart slander again. I mean, listen, Hart is up and down. I think that when he's down just a little, we act like the floor didn't fell out on Hart. That's the thing. In-game said, I'll put it this way. You live and die by Josh Hart. His lows are pretty boneheaded, but I think it's outweighed by his benefits. I mean, the coaches must think so as well. Doug Boy, fresh music. Josh went crazy last night. Charles Turner III. I think Josh is back on the Mike and Ike's. Okay. Okay. We can't let Mitch Dimes last night, I guess, go unnoticed. I don't know. I'm guessing. Yeah, I liked it. We talked about it. Props to Mike Brown. He's been able to make Cat commit more to defense. Absolutely. Absolutely. We could talk about defensive schemes and the changes they've made, but you got to get the buy-in. You got to get the buy-in.
Brunson too, by the way, not
Brunson
just Cat.
too.
Like Brunson too. He's really, both of those guys have been much more committed on the defensive end, in my opinion.
Absolutely. If Mitch can score 16 and get 10 boards, if Cat doesn't take a lot of shots, it shouldn't affect us much. I just don't think that's his game, and I think you have to.
Getting 16. Has he had 16? Like I think he had one game where he had. Like, he didn't get. I love Mitch, my favorite player, but he ain't getting 16.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. If Mitch can do that and Cat doesn't take a lot of shots, it shouldn't affect us much because we're kind of getting it from the position. I guess you're trying to say. I just wouldn't bet on Mitch because he has to be set up.
Although I will say this, and not necessarily on an offensive thing, but I think that when Mitch kind of doesn't have to take the longer breaks, when he kind of gets in a rhythm where we're not having back-to-backs and he kind of stays in the lineup, he seems to be doing much better with that. I think this is like only the third time all year where he's had like 6 games in a row where he's gotten to play and he's kind of more lathered up and more in the flow as opposed to, when he's in the lineup, out of the lineup. And so that's encouraging to me because that's the playoff schedule, right? You're not going to be playing back-to-back nights in the playoffs. So that is a good sign that maybe we'll get to see the best of Robinson come the playoffs because he can really make a difference if he's on his game.
Yeah. He's only played. They still keeping his minutes low though when he does play. He played 19 last night. Doug Boy, Fresh Music. We have such a dangerous team. I think even with Tatum returning, it's the Knicks and Detroit. All right. Okay.
Keep that energy.
I like that. We really get both of the wings to work at the same time. How high can we fly doing that? All hands on deck in the playoffs. All hands on deck. They're going to target Brunson. They're going to target Cat. They're going to do what they can to make it difficult for them. If our wings are coming through, if our bench is coming through, we'll be able to mitigate the effects of that, right? We'll see.
And how are they limiting Brunson? Are they doubling him and trapping him hard where it ends up we're getting a 4-on-3 every time? Or is it, are they using some other kind of coverage where they're constantly switching using size, kind of like Detroit likes to do? In other words, it's not always the same solution. A lot of it depends on how they're choosing to guard our best players. Like what is it what is their scheme? And that I think will affect how we do.
Yes. Great point. Salute to Randu.
Did you see that super chat, by the way?
I did not see the super chat. All right, let me get to the super chat. Shout out to Walter White, 820. Salute, Dope Soul Collective. Salute to you. We appreciate you, rocking with us as well, and we appreciate the super chat. We played the worst team in the NBA. Please slow down. I mean, I don't think anybody is getting beside themselves, right, over the Indiana win.
I'm not. Never learned that. It's the first thing I said was we've been playing a G League team. So, yeah, for sure, slow down. But look, you got to win those games too, right? Like that's part of getting to your 50 wins. And, if we had lost that game or the Warriors game before that, the sky would have been falling. So when you take care of business, you take care of business. And guess what? Friday and Sunday are 2 more take care of business games, like Brooklyn and Washington. So, if you want to compete for the second seed, if you want to pass Boston, you're going to have to win those. You're going to have to take care of business in the games where you're a heavy favorite, and then also, win some of these more difficult games like against Boston and OKC. So,
right.
Right.
Talk about watching paint dry. Like I'm so over. We got 12 more games that I cannot be more over it. And we got Brooklyn and Washington coming up. My goodness.
Just get the W.
I'll do my best. 38 assists with only 9 turnovers. Hopefully a new trend. 38 assists on 54 field goal made.
It's easy to get assists when everybody's making shots, right?
Right.
Exactly. Shot the cover off the ball last night, so that the assists being up is not necessarily a surprise.
The funny thing about last night and when we go against Indiana is we are supposed to move like they do in a motion offense, and we don't. Okay, who do we play next? Brooklyn and Washington. My goodness.
Hopefully the Knicks aren't having the same malaise the Queen has, because if they do, we might get beaten one of those games. We gotta stay up for these next 2 games. We need to take care of business and not go down by 21 points in the first half because we sleepwalking through the first quarter.
All right, last one. I gotta get back. For anyone who thinks Knicks can't turn it on in the playoffs, do you Also, at the same time, believe that Indy can turn it around with Halliburton next year after all this wholesale losing this year. I think there's a difference, though, between a guy being out one season and starting the season with him, right? And then you have all season to kind of, turn it around. And you're right. There's been some changes with Indiana since he's been out. Good changes, if you ask me, with Zubac returning, being traded there. But there's a difference between that and a team being together the entire season, playing up and down, and like waiting for the playoffs to kind of turn it up. I think there's a little bit of a difference. But we shall see. We shall see. All right. Instagram discontinued their stream. I don't know. I think you only get a certain amount of time on Instagram. Is that what
an hour? I think it's an hour.
Oh, you get an hour. Okay.
Or 100 minutes. Whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, they weren't playing. I got to get back. I appreciate everybody. We will, I think tomorrow, the Knicks play when? Friday, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go. Okay.
Weekly
so tomorrow
show.
Night, we have the weekly show. All right.
See that?
Till next time, family. Appreciate you.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.